Welcome to the AgriPod, brought to you by Herdwatch, the #1 farm management app used on over 21,000 farms. Join me, Katie Shanahan, as we bring together top experts in agriculture, influencers and more each month. Uncover invaluable tips and tricks to navigate the agricultural calendar successfully. Engage in insightful discussions and current agricultural issues, all whilst having some fun along the way. Transform your farming journey by downloading the Herdwatch app today and say goodbye to farm paperwork.
I'm nervous, come on, let's go.
Right, well, we get started. So, hello everyone and welcome to the Ploughing. For those of you who don't know myself, I'm Katie Shanahan. I work with Herdwatch, and every month or so we do a podcast on Herdwatch called the AgriPod. So it was something we started at the start of the year, and this is my first ever actually in-person podcast, and it happens to be at the Ploughing. So thank you all for coming. We have a great crowd gathered here already. If you don't know who any of these lovely guests are, you must live under a rock. So I presume everyone here knows at least one of them, seeing as we have sheep farmer, beef, we have a rearer, and we have a suckler farmer. So there's probably something for everyone, although we don't have any, well, no, not really dairy farming in terms of milking. We have a few people who dip in and out. But I'm very delighted that you're here all with me today, and thank you for taking the time to do this. So we'll get straight in. You're all in the sun, we're in the shade, which is nice for us. So I'm going to get started. Everybody here, you can all just introduce who you are, and then we might, you can just give a little bit about yourselves, because some of the people here might know all of you. So if you want to start there, Karol?
Sure, yeah. My name is Karol Devaney. I'm from sheep farmer and YouTuber from the northwest. I'm on the west of the country, and I'm on the west of the bale of straw here, just barely hanging on. But I farm sheep up in Sligo, and make a few videos, shear as well. Probably do as much shearing, if not more, than farming. And on the Herdwatch team, not too long on it, but have been kind of keeping an eye on that for a while. And then with my own flock, I went into organics, and there's a lot of paperwork with it, and definitely finding it good so far. That's a bit about me.
Hello everybody, my name is Farmer Phil. Have to start with that or it doesn't seem right. But anyways, for anyone who doesn't know me, we are dairy, calf to beef farmers in County Longford. We also grow tillage to feed the cattle. We grow beet, barley, oats, maize, beans, peas, pumpkins, sunflowers, which is also a side venture with the farm shop. And I'm on YouTube. We do everything from the running of the farm to the contracting business we have to our collection of vintage machinery or what we're doing with the shop. So we keep ourselves busy. Oh, that's me anyways.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I'm from County Cavan, and I rear heifers for another farmer in County Meath. I'm studying a master's and I work as a civil servant, and I have Instagram and TikTok. Haven't ventured to YouTube just yet, but hopefully one day. And I also work on a few other.
Is the button pushed up, Sophie?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I also work on a few other farms, and I do things like grass walking and worm sampling for other farmers too. So I have a few different things going. But yeah, that's me.
Hello, I'm Karen Moynihan. I'm a part-time suckler farmer in County Kerry, working with my dad. That's basically all I do. I feel like I do very little compared to the rest of these guys here, but that's me.
So we have a nice mix here in the panel, but I suppose we were laughing because, we were coming up to this panel. They were asking me, what are we going to be talking about? And it's funny because, through social media, we've actually all become friends. And there's other people in the audience who are on social media as well. The Kerry Cowboy, me Hall there, things like that. So you develop friendships with these people you meet on social media. So I suppose, Karol, coming to you first, since you've started social media, what are some of the benefits you've gained from it? We'll try and say positive on this podcast.
Benefits. People will always kind of go on about how much money you're making. It kind of depends on what size you're at. I don't know about the rest of the guys, but at the kind of maybe mid-sized creator level that I'm at. I feel like it's just kind of turning. Money's turning, but it's not much has been. But it's definitely good crack. Farming is unpredictable. It's up and down. So like I for one definitely need to diversify. So sharing and then the online just works well. And it's cool when you can. It's great to be able to look. There's all these kind of little benefits. You could go on forever, but like even just be able to look back to your content and kind of laugh about that bad day you had from a couple of years ago on a video, and that at least you turned something bad into something good. And but as Katie said, the people you meet and the friends you make is definitely a part of it, and the opportunities it opens up really, and the fact that you have social media maybe just kind of not sets you apart as anything special, but at the same time you're just, people know who you are, and it's kind of, it opens doors to kind of network, and there's kind of good opportunities professionally and just personally, and making good friends.
Well, one after another, is it?
Sure, yeah. Tell me there, so Phil, because obviously, you're more a lot of YouTube-based content in particular, which generally would have a different type of following as well, because, someone that has Instagram mightn't necessarily be on Facebook or be on YouTube, but you nearly seem to be across all of them. So would there be much differences between putting the time into making these YouTubes in comparison to doing something like Instagram, or do you find that because you have a lovely wife who helps you out a lot, I'm sure, that there isn't much of a difference?
There's definitely a difference between putting content on the different platforms. Like a YouTube video takes a lot more time, there's a lot more effort, so to speak, put into it to create the content and just go through it and get edited and all that, whereas an Instagram post, you take a good picture, you stick it up, or TikTok short or TikTok or anything like that, you take a few clips, stick them together, you have it up, 10 minutes, you have that done, 2 or 3 hours for a YouTube video. But as you said, my wife Liv looks after all that, so as I do say, I'm just eager with the camera, she does all the background work, so works well.
And then I suppose, girls, we'll come to you first, Sophie, but in terms of your farming, you also have full-time employment as well, and then social media on top of it. Is it hard to juggle it all? Is there difficulties surrounding that?
Yeah, it is very hard to juggle it all, and there's great pressure all the time, and anytime you pick up the phone, it's overwhelming. So yeah, it is very hard to balance everything, but it's also lovely to have that job security outside the farm, because as a young person in this day and age, it's very difficult to make a living off farming and plan for my future. So it's great to have that in the back of my head. But yeah, I just delegate my tasks as urgent. If they need to be done in the day, then great. But if they're less urgent, then I can just do it at the weekend. So usually it is manageable, but like weeks like this where lots is happening at the ploughing, you kind of have to take each hour as it comes, really.
And then I suppose, Karen, like you said, you have a full-time job, and like Phil said, the YouTubes do take a little bit longer. Having that full-time job, do you find it hard to come home in the evening to tackle into a YouTube, or do you find it now over time, in the last few months, you've been at it now a while, it's getting a little bit more easier to do?
Yeah, it's definitely getting easier. Obviously, the editing of YouTube is what takes the time. But I think the more you do it, the quicker you get at it. And look, I don't think you could do YouTube really if you didn't like doing it, because it does take up a fair bit of time. But I mean, you get the benefits back from YouTube, and it just allows you to invest back into the farm again, and you're just growing your channel every time you're doing that as well,
Yeah, good. I suppose a lot of young people in agriculture are coming into the sector. A lot of people are, say, either going to college or getting that job, like you said, for Sophie, for a little bit of security. Just coming to you lads, and I said this briefly earlier on, I don't think, Karol, you've mentioned yet the fact that you have the YouTube clothing line, which is like a major, it's what I kind of found about you first, not only the sheep and the shearing, but this whole other aspect of you. Just tell everyone a little bit about, you can sell yourself a little bit here too,
When you mention the young people, that's like back to the benefits. That's actually a great benefit of it. Like even being on the stand, we're up at the shearing tent. That's my plug. We're at the shearing tent with the merch.
Call up to the shearing tent.
There'll be a shearing competition tomorrow. Probably more action, but like there's people calling to you, and they've got maybe a couple of young lads or a couple of young girls, and they watch the channel, and then they run away with a YouTube single or a YouTube t-shirt, or they're going around with Farmer Phil t-shirts and that. And like when you see the average age of farmers, and the fact that I'm a contractor too, and the guys might realise this with whatever they do, but I'm a shearer. I go around to different farms. So many cases where there's farmers that are that are older, and then there's just their children are not coming on, and not really showing it. They'll be going away doing other things, which is perfectly fine. But maybe out of 4 or 5 kids, that none of them's taking any interest in the farming. So, which is all right too. And I never judge anyone for trying to do you do what you want to do. You get one life and you spend it how you want. But definitely to have farmers coming on, I think that's one big benefit of social media. That we're just sort of, I suppose we're inspiring the next generation, and they're going around wanting to be the next Farmer Phil or the next Tom Pemberton or the next Cammy or the God help them, the next Karol Devaney. and that's great too. I went off on a tangent. What was the original question? Selling myself.
Selling your clothing line. So Karol actually has merch, everybody. So he's not doing a good job of selling himself.
Plus, it's a way of monetizing YouTube. I suppose it's an extra way to make a little bit of money off it, and then it gets the channel out there. So if people buy merch, and you it is important to try and do good quality stuff, because you won't build any business by and anyone who's in business will realise that selling to someone once is, you'll never build a business, because you'll just run out of people. There's only a certain amount of sheep farmers that watch YouTube. It's not a big audience. So if I sell them a poor quality hoodie or t-shirt and they don't come back the second time, there's going to be no business. So just really try and do as top quality stuff as you can that's reasonably affordable, and but it also has your channel on it, like say YouTube, and it's getting the channel out there and people see that, and then they might just decide to, people quite enjoy my name, the name YouTube, and they see that and then they can just search that up, and you'd hope the whole thing feeds into each other. People watch more videos, might buy more merch, and that funds the whole operation really.
So Phil, you're similar enough. You have your clothing line. I don't know how many young lads and lassies I've seen around the Ploughing already today with the Farmer Phil something on them. But you also have the farm shop, and I suppose why I'm bringing this up is that, do you think would it have been as easy to start the farm shop? I know a lot of farmers, dairy farmers, they're starting up these milk vending machines. They're kind of venturing out and doing their own little bits and pieces. Do you think having the social media obviously would have been a help? But for people or farmers here today that might be interested in, venturing down that path, would you suggest it? Would you promote it, the idea of doing it?
Yeah, so definitely our farm shop, I don't think we'd have ever got off the ground without social media. I don't ask me why, but I feel we'd never got off. It was purely down to our people who support the channel, who got the shop up and running. We started to diversify the shop from our just beef to some local produce or pork, and then we started doing the pumpkin patch, and this year we've done our first sunflower patch, and now we've been able to build the Stewart family farm brand off the back of Farmer Phil, and now it's a thing that we feel will sustain itself into the future, and we're investing in a new premises, a new farm shop, cafe, vintage machinery museum, animal thing, just big expenditure kind of job. But definitely social media is the way to go, and if anyone is thinking of diversifying the farm, thinking maybe farm shop or doing something like that, the biggest thing I'll say is start small, prove the concept. Because my father, when I said to him first we'd start selling raw beef, he's like, you won't sell beef, there's not enough people in the country. I was like, we will. So he gave us half a garage, about 8 foot by 6 foot, and we could fit 3 freezers in it, and we were able to build from that at low input, and we were able to prove the concept, and then we kind of started taking over 3 acres of the farm, 6 acres of the farm, and now, I don't know, it was 9-10 acres of the farm now is dedicated to the farm shop. So it's just about starting small and building on it. You go in the deep end and it doesn't go right, you can get caught out. So
yeah, so it's not for the faint-hearted, and I suppose a lot of effort needs to be put in, a lot of thought and care around the idea if you are interested in starting one. But something you all kind of mentioned at some stage today, you all come from, say, family farms, or farming with your fathers, or that's how you kind of got drawn into it. Karen, I know you have an interesting story, because you're, say, not new to social media, but probably out of the 4, one of the newest in terms of, you know, you're so successful now on YouTube. You've shot up there in recent months. But talk to me about how you went from having your full-time job and now why are you like pulled back into the beauty that is suckler farming.
Yeah, I suppose growing up I wouldn't say I had no interest. When I was very small, I used to go down to the shed to my granddad at the weekends and things, but we were never really encouraged to farm, being a family of 4 girls, I suppose, and my mother being a major townie. She just did not push it on us at all. So I went away to college anyway, and unfortunately my dad had an accident 10 years ago now. It's hard to believe it was that long ago. He was working in an old house as a carpenter and he fell down through the attic space, and just whatever way he fell, he's paralysed from the chest down now. So obviously he had taken the farm from my granddad, and there was nobody to do it really, and it kind of came a time where we needed to decide, are we going to let it go, are we going to lease it out, or what's going to happen? And to be honest, it was just good fortune as well. I got a different position in my current full-time job, which meant I could move back home, start building the house, and with that I moved in with the parents and started feeding the cattle in the winter. And my dad told the neighbour, just stay on standby there because she'll get sick of this fairly quickly, and it's been nearly 5 years now and I'm still at it. So that's how I came about suckler farming.
And you can see yourself continuing on with it?
Yeah, there's no backing out of it now. I'm in too deep
He's
at
drawn
this
you
stage.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love watching, just for myself, you know, I'd be close with my dad as well. That's what kind of drew me in, was farming. My dad was in an accident as well. That's why we changed to sheep, and I was getting more hands-on because of that. It was kind of an almost like, you know, I went to college as well, but you were drawn back because you had to. But I suppose, Sophie, you're similar but different. You're a girl farming with her dad. So talk to me a little bit, because you're doing a master's at the moment. So, you know, you have your full-time job, you're doing a master's, so you're kind of in that, you know, you have your secure job, you're back in education. So why are you farming?
I think I was drawn into it when I was in secondary school. I always did have that interest in animals growing up, but when I was surrounded by more girls the same as me, I grew more of an interest in it because I went to their houses and enjoyed seeing their farms and all that. So I grew at that stage. And then in my leaving cert, I had to take on the farm because my dad moved away for work. And at that time, we only had about 10 suckler cows, but that's when the interest grew. And that's where the passion started, really, whenever I had to take over that responsibility. It was a lot of pressure and not the nicest year, but yeah, I really grew from that experience. And then I went to study in Harper for 4 years, which was where all my experience sort of started, and that's when I came home then, and I decided to do contract rearing because beef farming on 56 acres wasn't going to get me anywhere. So we're on 100 animals now, and yeah, I think going back to your question, I just enjoy it. Like days like this at the Ploughing and evenings where it's lovely and sunny, is just, it all pays off at the end. And I don't know, I think it's just because I grew up in the setting of family farming, is why I'm always tied back to it, even though there is very hard moments. But yeah, no, I just have a genuine graw for it, I guess.
And if you were given the option to expand or veer off into something else or expand the herd, would you? Are you happy with the number you have? You have your job, you know, it's secure, but you also have the farming there whenever you need to, get that way of life again?
I think I am happy at the level we have. Like, we're not overstocked and we're not pushing ourselves mentally and physically. I think it's very nice to come home to at the end of the evening. So I think we will probably stay at this level, but at the same time still improve the farm facilities and the land itself. I think we'll still keep going in that direction, but in terms of actually expanding as a herd, I think we'll keep it at this rate because it's just a lot more comfortable, and it's nice to have that security, like you said.
And now coming to you, Phil, so everyone, like I said, is similar in terms of that they're farming at home or they started off with their dad. All of us here are coming to that age where it's like that awkward, okay, do we overstep dad now, or do we let him keep going, or do we stay quiet? Because whenever we say something to dad, he tells us, oh yeah, you know it all now, you know, the youth coming up and all this. Have you ever had those kind of battles at home, Phil? You know, trying to get a little bit more active in your own farm. Maybe you have better ideas, or you think are better ideas. But was there ever a battle of struggle there between you and your dad? Because obviously it is a common thing in Ireland, farming families to be, you know, that whole generation renewal and young people coming up into the sector, and it's very, very hard for men to hand over the reins, which is fair enough because, you know, they've built it. So what was it like for you, or what is it like now?
Yeah, that is that's a difficult one, all right. Like, yeah, there is times when me and my father get into very, very heated debates. There's no point saying otherwise. You never see it on YouTube because it's not for YouTube. That's, as my father says, you keep them in the knickers drawer, they don't come out. So, but it's like every father-son relationship. I'm the young whippersnapper coming up thinking, all these great ideas, and he's maybe more set in his ways of how he'd like to do certain things. But in some aspects, to be fair to him, he is looking after the financial end of things, and then me and Liv tend to be running the day-to-day runnings of the farm, as in with the livestock end of it. So Liv does all the rearing of the calves, she feeds all the calves. I do all the heavy lifting, the dosing, sorting out cattle, batching them, picking who's fit for the factory, all that end of it. My father just plays with the crops. That's generally, and then I do a lot of contracting. But yeah, look, there's no point saying anything else. My father would be considered, in the grand scheme of things, quite young. He's 54, I'm 28. Well, 28 tomorrow, and he was 54 on Monday. So, it was one thing when I was in Gertrude. There was one lecturer we had, and it was about succession and farm planning and that, and our lecturer said, this is the one piece of information we want everyone in the room to take in on, is if your father's now 65 or over, don't go home. Because you'll be banging heads till that time comes that he's no longer able to farm. And some days you do think to yourself, maybe I was as well off, I didn't go home. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is, stick with him, and I just keep pushing him in the right direction. Everyone's gentle moves, bit by bit, you wear him down and you get things the way you want them. Cautious steps, baby steps, and eventually he'll just start doing less and less, and I'll keep doing more and more, and I suppose that's just how it goes. But yeah, it sometimes it can get very heated.
And Karol, coming to you, do you think it's important, first of all, for young people like ourselves to be even starting those conversations with our parents, you know, giving them our intentions, but also them letting us know, you know, when do they plan on not stopping, because, you know, you'll always want your parents there. They're always great to help out down the line, you know. It's not like we want them to completely step back, but do you think the whole conversation around it is something that should be starting off sooner and not leaving it too late, because it doesn't always end up pretty for every family in Ireland, you know, that is going through this change?
No, 100%, yeah. Communication's important, I suppose, and being on the same page. It's different in different farming families. I suppose it depends on, a big thing is what age everyone is. Like, I'd probably be close enough to Phil, sort of my dad's in my mid-50s, I'm 30. You know, there's some farms then where, say, maybe whoever's farming could be in their 70s, and then the other person coming up's only in their 20s or whatever, so maybe it's a bit more smoother, plain sailing there. I'd say our old fellas, Phil, they're only coming into their prime yet. There's plenty more farming left to do.
Only the average age of the farmer.
Yeah, that's it. They're not even at, what is the average age? It's probably 57 or 8, is it? So
at least
they're not even at the average age yet, so in their mindset of loads more farming left to do. But as regard, yeah, it's a funny one, because they've been doing it for a long time. they're set in their ways, but they've got this far too, so you have to sort of value what the older generation has done, but then the newer generation coming up, they'll want to put their own stamp on it. They're a different person, and they'll want to do things slightly differently. So yeah, it's not a simple one. As Phil says, it has to be done slowly. You can't just change the farm overnight, nor would you want to, because that's when you're likely to make a mistake, and you don't want to bet the house on this next new idea. It's kind of slowly. You might have those conversations. There's sometimes arguments. In our situation, Dad is farming and he's in his name, but I have a flock of 170 sheep in my own name. So sometimes it might be, we'll have a conversation. I'll want to go one way, he'll want to go the other way. I'll say, feck it, I'm going to do it on my 170 sheep. I'll show you, something along those lines. But if you've got the same communication, taking it slowly, and if you're on the same page, if you've got the same wider goal that you're trying to make the farm better and you're trying to just everyone enjoy their farm and hopefully make a living out of it, then if you've got that same wider goal, then how you do it is flexible, but do your best. Best of luck.
Was the organic farming, was that something new on your farm in terms of, did your dad do it?
Yeah, it was, and it's something I was definitely encouraged Dad to go into. He thinks it's a retirement scheme for farmers, for older farmers. I was telling him, I would see it as being the opposite, like they're giving good money for organic farming. Now, the way I say it, I do tell people I own, they say, you're making money sharing sheep and farm, and I do tell them the sum total of things I own at the moment is a Jeep and a dog. So, and with the price of, let alone, even just trying to move out, let alone trying to buy a bit of land these days, you've got to pull out all the stops. You have to do, I think, everything financially that makes sense. You need to be just firing on all cylinders, and that's one thing that made sense for me anyway with a smaller hill farm, was to go organic, and there wasn't much of a change really anyway, because you're with hill farming, you're pretty close to organic anyways. You're not like, it's not real intensive there. It's poor quality marginal land, so you're just kind of trying to run them on, you'd be like maybe trying a big number of sheep, but it'd be on a far, like it wouldn't be near as many sheep per acre as the better land. So it certainly suited me anyway. He wasn't as fond of that, but I'm going to go my own way anyway, with my own farm anyway, and I suppose when it comes time that I'll start helping him more and more and going in, I suppose maybe at that stage it'll be a few years down the line, and maybe I'll have learned a few things. I might agree with him in a few things in a few years, because you have to be humble too. You don't know it all, and maybe appreciate what they know, but then at the same time they can be set in their ways. It's just, it's definitely not cookie cutter, like every situation is different, but it's good crack anyway, and best of luck to anyone else in that situation.
And I suppose the reason we're here today is obviously because this big tent behind us is the Herdwatch tent, and that's the main reason why you came to Herdwatch, was getting into organics, and the amount of paperwork obviously increases. So what are some of the things that you say wouldn't have been doing before, or wouldn't have even thought about, that now have to come into your farming practice weekly or monthly or whatever?
With organics or with Herdwatch?
Or both, things that you now have to do as being part of the scheme, in terms of keeping records or whatever you need to do.
Tighter with the paperwork, and everything you do has to is maybe just tightly recorded compared to conventional farming. Although the way conventional farming is going, you have to kind of keep things tightly recorded anyway. And if you're in Board B, you have to keep things very up to date, and everything you do really has to be written down. There's just different things in order to keep your system organic, and it's more about so that the consumer that wants organic product can trust that that's why they're tight with it, so that they can trust the organic farms that it's coming off is truly organic and not just organic by name and just doing the same thing. And there's certain things you can't do, like whether it's fertilizer or spraying, and withdrawal dates are doubled on medicines and stuff like that. So and keeping the thing right is very important, and you'd be inclined to let the paperwork go a wee bit, maybe busy times a year, and we're all very busy. See, for example, this time of year I might get a wee bit more time, but in the summertime I'm absolutely flat to the mat sharing sheep. The last thing I want to look at is a farm register or records or paperwork like that. So things have to be kept tighter, And I figure with the app, like you have your phone with you and you're on your phone anyway. So if you can do it on the go as opposed to leaving it and letting it go for a few months and then having that absolute headache of gathering up receipts and records and different pieces to try and get things up to date, it'd work well. So we'll see how it goes.
Great. And Sophie, I'm actually just going to come to you because you were talking already this morning on, mental health, particularly in farming. And I suppose, like Karol said, the paperwork, the schemes, everything associated with farming in terms of keeping records and so on tends to give you a headache. It's very stressful on farmers to try and keep up. We feel like there's a lot of regulations we have to follow and so on. Sophie, do you think this is affecting the mental health of farmers? Because often it's something that's just completely ignored, especially in the older generation. It's something that's not really talked about. It's just maybe thought that, this is all a part of it now. We just have to deal with it and get on with it and suffer away in silence. So, just explain to me your thoughts on that.
So there is a lot of regulation and legislation always coming in, especially in the dairy side. And you receive a letter from the department and you can't make head nor tail of what it is saying. It's all very, there's so much rules that you have to follow, but it's very unclear at the same time, and it's hard to disseminate that information to farmers. It can have a toll on you, but I think having Herdwatch and keeping up to date on your paperwork is a great help, and it's a lot off your chest. And speaking to people who know what's happening in terms of the recent regulation in farming is very important, and having a chat with your advisor and having someone at the end of the phone for that is very important. And it can be a great help because it can be something very simple, but in your head it can be quite daunting.
And Phil, I might just come to you because you're farming, yes, but you're contracting a lot, and I assume over the summer months it's extremely busy. You're in the tractor a lot by yourself, and I know for especially men, and men are the ones who suffer a lot with mental health. It's male farmers that have the highest rates of suicide. Is it tough, to do this? This doesn't have to be a fancy conversation, but is it tough to be contracting during the extremely busy months? You could be going hours and hours. Like, what's one of the longest days you say you've worked?
The longest I've done without stopping was, it started at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I worked through that day, through that night, into the following day till 9 p.m. that night.
Like, that's a crazy work day. Like, if that was done in, say, 2 days, if that was, something done in the public sector, there probably would be uproar about it, and you'd hear it all over the news. Or, there'd be people protesting if they had to do that many hours in a week, never mind in one shift. So, what are some of the coping mechanisms? Obviously you have great support and things, you've a good team, but what are some of the things that you do for yourself? Or is there any?
Well, it's definitely a tough one to explain because every individual is different. I take great joy in working and driving. I'm the kind of person who can't sit down. If I was to go home and it was a day like this, I get itchy feet. I'd be thinking of all the things I should be doing. Maybe it's a bad thing, but I have to be working. And when it comes to working long hours in tractors, when everything's going fine, it's a lovely job. It's perfect. I work through the night, doesn't bother me. Stick on some good tunes. I just keep going. I just kind of have a different mindset, but every individual is different. But on a day when things go wrong, I had a day there, my father was on holidays, and I got up, I was all excited, we were going to go, I was going to show him how we'd run the show now, and we were going to get a heap of stuff done. Everything went wrong. We broke the baler, broke the tractor, broke the rake, broke tyres. After about the third breakdown, I was ready for bed. And I was just dragging my heels for the rest of the day, and I was like, just would the day ever end? And look, I'm lucky, I have my wife there, I have a good family around me. When you get a bad day and you have a good crew around you, it makes a big difference, because it's on them bad days when things go wrong, when the cattle break out, when the tractor breaks down. It's those days you need them people to fall back on. But when the sun is shining on a day like this and sun is splitting the stones, life's a breeze.
You can't complain about the weather anyway today. That's certainly one thing. But Karen, for you then, yes, you had an interest in farming, obviously. You wouldn't have done it if you didn't have an interest in it. You wouldn't have kept it up this many years. But it must have been tough, your specific situation, getting into it. How did you, apart from, was it just literally learning alongside your dad that you coped and that you learned it? Because I assume you're still learning, because I'm still, you go out onto the farm, you nearly learn something new every day. You go online, you learn something new off whoever you're following. But what was it like for you, just literally being thrown in there? You had no choice really as such. You could have escaped it, but you didn't. But just talk to me a little bit about the challenges for you specifically.
Yeah, I suppose when I started, I genuinely believed I was just going to feed the cows for the winter. And then come springtime, they just go out into the field and they're fine. And that was what farming was. So then when the calves started coming along and my dad handed me the dehorner, it's like, what am I supposed to do with this? And it is still one of those jobs that I absolutely hate doing on the farm. But I mean, it was a massive learning curve. I do always say I wish I just got into it a bit earlier, because I'm looking at 15, 16-year-olds that have far more knowledge than I do at the moment. So all I'm trying to do is soak up every bit of information from my dad. And I suppose I'm very lucky that he's still, although he is disabled, he's still very much able to come out with me, show me exactly what to do. He has the patience of a saint sometimes, because our brains do not work the same way, but somehow he gets through to me and we get the job done. But yeah, it's learning every single day. But again, as you said, it's on social media, looking at something somebody else is doing, or even on my own videos, people will give me hints and tips of how to do things easier or quicker, and all those things help.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up shortly, but I'm just gonna ask you all a few questions. So, obviously, social media is a great way to spread the love of farming. It's a great way for people to meet new people, to learn new things. So we'll start with you, Karen. So give me one or two, and you can't name anyone here, one or two people that you love to follow. They don't have to be massive, because we're all about as well promoting everyone who's promoting agriculture online. So just give me one or two names that you follow online, and maybe everyone here can look them up later on and have a look at them.
Okay, obviously there's three of them sitting here. So I would say Instagram, the Dairy Queen. Dairy Queen Aoife Mullen, she is hilarious. She's very good and a very nice person, so I enjoy watching her. Then YouTube, I would say I Farm, We Farm, but everybody I think knows Adrian on I Farm, We Farm anyway. But yeah, again, my dad even picks up tips from him, so it's definitely one that helps us on the farm anyway.
And Sophie, what about you?
I would say your girlfriend, Karol.
Give her a shout out.
Yeah, I really do enjoy her content. I'm a recent
Shepherdess Jazz is the better half of the YouTube clan, and she's probably the one. Is she the one up on the stand now, looking after all the merch for him while he's down here?
I'll have to go back up with
a bunch of flowers, yeah.
And I'd also have to say Aoife Mullen as well. I admire her a lot.
So I'm obviously a Massey man, and I quite enjoyed the Flying Fergie's lot of episodes. And again, his 1200 ready, he brought it down to our working day and tractor run there. So definitely a good channel to watch. And to be fair, I've actually, again, Shepherdess Jazz is quite good content as well. I do follow Tom Pemberton as well. He'd be a big man in the UK. So.
A couple of mates of mine that said they like Jazz's content because it's behind the scenes of me. It's like the stuff that I don't show, it's just in
she puts up way more than you, so we get like a
bad situations. Yeah. Well, it's hard to focusing is probably a help too. Like Instagram is Jazz's platform, so she's really on the ball with the stories, whereas I've got all YouTube and Facebook and the rest of them to worry about. So it can be, when you get spread thin, it can be hard to do one of them right. But the Jazz's content is great. I follow all you guys on Instagram and TikTok, and I see all your content really, and enjoy it all. I suppose with YouTube, I suppose you dig in deeper and you have to spend more time with that creator, so you have to definitely quite like their content. Inevitably, I just end up getting drawn to sheep farmers because, I'm struggling even just to fully get the hang of and be a good sheep farmer, and you're always wanting to. There's so much to learn within sheep that even to try and open a can of worms that would be dairy farming or tillage or beef. So I suppose it's relatable, and you get things tips that would apply to your own system and your own job. So I quite enjoy Sheep School. David Beattie, he's up in Cavan. He's not even YouTubing that long, and I go up and cheer for him. We do regular collabs. He's a nice fella, but he does very good videos. He's very smart and very thoughtful about really everything he does around business, around content and around YouTube. So quite enjoy him. Enjoy Cammy. Enjoy the boys in Kerry, Glyn and John. They're here as well. The Egan's Sheep Shepherd. Would dip into Phil and Adrian's content as well, Farmer Phil, and then Adrian, I Farm, We Farm, would dip in and watch some of their videos because they're very good at it, and I enjoy their content and I like the guys, but probably inevitably I just end up watching more sheep farming content than the other guys, just because that's what I do and that's what I'm into, I suppose.
And we are going to take a few questions at the end, so if you have one, start thinking now. But before we do, if you were to change one thing in agriculture, now take from that what you will. It could be something simple, it could be something more complex, but if you were to change one thing in agriculture or in your own operation right now, so it doesn't even have to be something outside it could be something inside your own operation at home. If you were to change one thing about agriculture, about what you do, about something on the farm that's annoying you, or something you hope to do in the next few years, what would it be?
That is such a difficult question because there is so many things. I could
Everything.
start reaming off a list of things here now. But look, for us at the moment, every year that goes by now, we just want to keep improving the breeding in the cattle that we're breeding, because I think as a suckler farmer, and especially small time like we are, if you're not breeding to the highest quality that you can, you're absolutely wasting your time, because it is very, very difficult to make anything from suckler farming as it is. So for us, it's just to try and up our game as much as we can there and just breed the highest quality that we can.
That was a good answer for a hard question. Sophie?
I think what I would change is, for young people who don't have access to a farm or haven't grown up on a farm, I would allow them to have more opportunity and access to agriculture, and to have better opportunity and funding in that way.
That's a good one. I think that's kind of a common one, because I'm sure, well, I do, but I'm sure a lot of you as well get messages from people like, how do I get into it? How do I get into agriculture? I don't have a farm, I don't have a background. And I suppose it's about getting out yourself as well, calling up to the farm or up the road and offering yourself for lambing season, or offering yourself just to help out around the place, to kind of dipping the toes to get a little bit of experience before, college aside, that, or the Green Cert, that's something completely different, but I suppose it's putting yourself out there as well. So Phil?
I thought you said these were going to be handy questions.
They are.
Um,
Keep it to your own farm if you wish.
It'd be nice if when we sowed a crop, we knew what the price was going to be when we harvested it. That would just give you some kind of security, because at the minute, straw's worth more a ton than grain is. So you're nearly better off grow a crop for the straw than the grain, which sounds stupid, but it'd be nice to know.
So if anyone's a fortune teller here, you can have business with Farmer Phil, so just let yourself be known there once the podcast is over. And finally, Karol?
Yeah. I wish land was cheaper.
Don't we all?
Apart from that, very, very happy with what I'm doing. Good variation of stuff, change as good as the rest. Probably maybe would just like to improve a little bit in all probably the three main things they do: the online stuff in the business, the farm, and the shearing. Would like to get a little bit better, a little bit more successful at all of them. But sure, that's the fun. If it was easy, then everyone would be at it, as the saying goes. Yeah. And
The
then,
hardship isn't for everyone.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, for sure.
Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
For Phil.
Yeah.
You have a graphic t-shirt on.
Our dice are 5 times better than them out balls of scrap and massey.
Not a question. It's not a question.
It's a statement. Each to their own.
Also, can I get a picture?
When we're finished.
Alright. Yeah. No.
Does anyone else have a question? Except if you're targeting poor Phil again, or he won't come back anymore. Any other one? Well, the lads will be here for 5 or 10 minutes once we finish. They might get a few pictures with their fans. I want to thank them again. So we have, make sure you give them all a follow. They're across all forms of social media, so give them a big round of applause. So just to recap, we have Karen Moynihan, Sophie Bell, Farmer Phil, and Karol Devaney, aka Ewetube. And I'm Katie Shanahan myself. So thanks very much, everyone, for coming, and I hope you all enjoyed.
Thanks, Katie, for being an excellent host.
This podcast was brought to you by Herdwatch. Download the Herdwatch app today to eliminate farm paperwork and make better decisions with your farm in your hand. I hope you enjoyed this month's AgriPod by Herdwatch. Tune in next month where we will have another special guest in store. Bye!